To the new lecture of our series on data mining and data warehousing. Today we are going to again discuss classification with a special emphasis on lazy learner and eager learner. So eager learner we have learned before and now we are going to discuss lazy learners in detail. So let's begin our lecture. So let's begin our lecture with the comparison of lazy and eager learner. Lazy learner, as the name suggests, simply stores training data or only do minor processing on the data and waits until it is given a test tuple. Whereas in case of eager learner, which the model we have learned before, what they do is they, on the basis of given a set of training tuple, usually construct a classification model, and based on the classification model, on receiving the new data to classify, they simply classify the new or the test data. So what lazy learner do is they consume less time in training but more time in predicting. And when we talk about the accuracy of lazy learner is effectively based on the richer hypothesis space, since it is local to many linear functions to form an implicit global approximation of the target function. And the data don't depend on test space or the sample space or on the model which we have built on eager learner as compared to lazy learner. And what we can call is their eager learner must commit to a single hypothesis that covers the entire instance space. So what we have in case of eager learner, we have fixed set of classes which are not present in the comparison to lazy learners, because in lazy learners we do not have the idea about the classification of our the test space or the training data. So first thing is among lazy learners, our instance based methods. What instance based method do is they store training data and delay the process until a new instance must be classified. So what it usually does, it waits for a new instance which is required to be classified and do the processing. And some of the approaches are k nearest neighbor, where the Euclidean space is taken into consideration, and locally weight regression, which is based on local approximation, and third is our case-based reasoning, which what that does is it requires symbolic representation and knowledge-based inference for the new instance to be classified. So first we take k nearest neighbor algorithm. What actually does it, all instances correspond to the points in the ND space, so each point is mapped to the n-dimensional space. The nearest neighbor are defined in terms of Euclidean distance, which you can get for a point x1 and x2, x1 y1 and x2 y2 is given by x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square, the whole, under root of whole of that. So what happens is our target function could be discrete or real valued. We have no limitation on the target function, and for discrete values KNN return the most common value among the k training example nearest to x cube. So the common value is taken among the nearest k neighbors, and our Voronoi diagram, the decision surface induced by 1 NN for a typical set of training example you can see from our figure. Now we'll discuss our KNN algorithm. So what KNN does for real value prediction for a given unknown tuple, it basically returns the mean value of the k nearest neighbor, and our distance weighted nearest neighbor algorithm, what it does is the weight the contribution of each of the k neighbors according to the distance to the query xku. So what it does is there is a different weight assigned to each attribute, and it on the basis of weight of that attribute usually calculates the distance, and it is robust to noisy data by averaging k nearest neighbor. So what we does is by taking out the average, we just try to curb the effect of noise on our data. But what it happens is it suffers from curse of dimensionality, which is basically the distance between neighbors could be dominated by irrelevant attributes. And for overcoming that, what we can do is we can stretch or eliminate of the least relevant attribute. So elimination of least relevant attribute will result in trying to remove the curse of dimensionality and improving the performance of our KNN algorithm. Now we'll talk about case-based reasoning. So what case-based reasoning does it simply uses a database of problem solutions to solve new problem. So what here we do is we store symbolic description of our tuples or classes, but as compared to Canon, we do not save points in a Euclidean space. And some of the typical application using case-based reasoning are our customer service, like product related diagnosis or legal ruling. And the methodology which is employed in case-based reasoning is given by instances are usually represented by rich symbol description like functions or graphs. And what we do is we search for similar cases and multiple retrieved cases may be combined in order to get the appropriate reasoning for the our new classification of the test case. And tight coupling between case retrieval, knowledge based reasoning and problem solving is employed to achieve the solution. So what is the challenge in our case based reasoning? First, we need to find a similarity matrix and we need to do indexing based on syntactic similarity measure. And when failure, what we need to do is in case of failure we need to backtrack and adopt two additional cases. So what here is done is what usually we do, we try to identify the cases similar to the test case, and based on the idea from the similar cases we try to predict the value for the test case. Now we'll talk about genetic algorithm, and as you know the genetic algorithm is usually based on the analogy of biological evolution. And here what we does is we create an initial population consisting of randomly generated rules. And being in computer science, each rule is represented by a strings of bit. Example, if A1 and negation A2, then C2 can be coded as 100. So if an attribute has k greater than 2 values, we can use k bits for representing that attribute. And based on the notion of the survival of the fittest, a new population is formed to consist of the fittest rule and their offspring. So what we require is we require a fitness of a rule to is represented by its classification accuracy on the set of training examples. So if a rule is above the certain parameter, we can consider it as a strong rule, or we can simply eliminate the rule if it is not crossing the appropriate accuracy measure. And the offsprings are usually generated by crossovers or the mutation process, and the process is continued until a population P evolves, which each rule in P satisfied a pre-specified threshold. So what our objective here is, we need to generate a population which can satisfy a pre-specified threshold, and for that we require functions like fitness function and processes like crossover and mutation. So eventually what we get the population which we require. But usually what happened is this process is usually slow, but it is parallelizable. So we can do parallel computations in we talk about genetic algorithms. Now we'll talk about fuzzy set approaches. So fuzzy logic uses truth values between 0 and 1 to represent the degree of membership, and this degree of membership can be represented in fuzzy membership graph. So Attribute values are converted to fuzzy values. Like income X is assigned a fuzzy membership to each of the discrete categories like low, medium, high. So what we need to do is we need to convert our value into a categorical variable. Like example 49,000 belongs to medium income with the fuzzy value of 0.15, but belongs to high income with fuzzy value of 0.96. So here we mean to say that we do not need to identify or categorize a value to a particular class only. It can have the membership of one or more classes for or categories for a particular attribute. So what usually happens is it is not essential that the fuzzy membership values should do not have a sum to 1. And what happens is each applicable rule contributes a vote for membership in the categories. So the 0.51 value as medium income and 0.96 value as high income both contribute for the evaluation of the category of our test set. And typically the truth values for each predicted category are summed, and these sum are combined in order to achieve our final idea about the category of the test data. With this we come to our end of this lecture, and we have discussed like lazy learners and eager learners. Today we discuss lazy learners which do not rely on pre-computations or constructing models, whereas our eager learner was specifically trying to build the model, and based on the model they were trying to identify the class of the testing data. So keep studying this and from your textbook as well, and in case of query you can mail me at utsav@gweca.ac.in. Thank you for your time and support. Take care.